Live from Denver, Colorado, this is Before the Chop, the morning show for barbers. Here's your host, David Ford.
You have had this day. I know you have. Fully booked, the cuts are going well, clients are walking out happy, and by 3 o'clock, you're running on fumes. It's not the haircuts that are doing it. Something else is taking it out of you, and you've never been able to name it. That's burnout, and it almost never comes from the haircutting. Today, we name where it actually comes from. All of the reasons. 9 jobs, you've been doing all of them since day one. Barber school only prepared you for the first one. That gap is where the burnout lives, and after today, you'll know exactly where to find it. Good morning, barbers. Welcome back to Before the Chop, live every Monday, 11:30 Mountain, 1:30 Eastern. Glad you're here. Last week, episode 1, we got into the 5 things nobody tells you before you get licensed. Today is the one sitting underneath all of them. The license covered 1 job. The career handed you 9. I've been behind the chair long enough to know that what drains you at the end of a good day usually isn't the craft. It's everything else. 8 jobs that were never on the license application but showed up anyway. By the end of this episode, you'll have a name for every one of them. And when you can name something, you can manage it. The Mindset Minute hits first, then all 9 hats, Craft Corner after that with 1 habit to use this week, and we're closing with a barber spotlight, a Cincinnati barber who wore every one of these hats and then went back to finish something he left behind 14 years ago. Today, the hat most barbers are wearing without even knowing it's on their head. The one that quietly decides whether your career lasts 20 years or 5, and a story that's going to reframe what it actually means to build something in this industry. Drop something in the chat, where you are, how long you've been at it. I want to know who's here today. And if something from behind your chair this week is sticking with you, a question, story, a topic that you want us to get into, mail at beforethechop.com. This is Before the Chop. It's the end of a shift. The chair's empty, station wiped down, you're walking to your car and your brain is still running. Client stuff, schedule stuff, money stuff, something you said, something you should have said differently. The haircuts are done, but something else isn't. Most barbers are wearing 9 hats and only claiming one of them. The one they claim is the craftsman. That's the hat they train for. That's the hat that we talk about when somebody asks what we do for a living. And it's real because the craft is the foundation, and without it, nothing else works. But the other 8, they don't care if you acknowledge them. They show up to work whether you put them on deliberately or not. And the hat that you're not wearing deliberately, the one that you haven't named, haven't thought about, haven't made a decision about, that's always the one quietly running the show. There's a principle in management. What you don't measure, you can't improve. Same concept here. What you haven't named, you can't manage. Naming is the first form of management. Before strategy, before systems, before anything else, you have to know what you're actually doing. I carried hats for years that I never once stopped to name, and every time something went sideways, a client situation, a money situation, a week that felt harder than it should have, the problem was almost always in a hat that I wasn't wearing deliberately. Not the haircut. It was something else. If you're in a hurry, take that with you. Look, you didn't get hired for 1 job. You got hired for 9, and barber school only prepared you for the first one. When you got your license, you were legally qualified to cut hair in a barbershop. That's the job you applied for, the one you went to school for, and that's the job the state board tested you on. What the board didn't test you on is everything else this job actually requires. And that everything else is what drains you. It's what confuses you. It keeps you up at night, and it determines whether you build something real or you just stay busy. So 9 hats. Let's name them. This is the one you know. The actual cut. The fade, the taper, the blend, the beard, the straight razor shave, the technical work that got you in the chair. It matters. Don't misread what I'm about to say. The craft is non-negotiable. Clients come back for a feeling, but they don't come back if the haircut looks bad. The craftsman is the foundation everything else is built on. But here's what's also true about this hat. It's the only one most barbers ever think about developing deliberately. Every class, every technique video, every Instagram tutorial, every competition is about the craft. And then they wonder why parts of the business feel like they're running on their own. The craftsman gets all of the attention, and the other 8 get whatever's left. That's where the gap comes from. Hat number 2, the therapist. The cape goes on. The client settles in. And then it starts. Divorce. Diagnosis. The kid's in trouble. Job loss. The thing they haven't told anyone yet because there's nobody else to tell. Not every client. Not every day. But it happens enough that if you've been behind the chair for any length of time, you've held things that had no other place to go. You didn't sign up for this. There's no course in it, and there's no clean way to put it down at the end of the shift. The weight accumulates. The barbers who don't know they're wearing this hat think they're just tired. They're not tired. They're carrying. Knowing you're wearing the therapist hat doesn't mean you stop being present. It means you build a practice of putting it down. Like I talked about last week, what that looks like is different for everyone. And I'm not here to tell you what yours should be. For me, it's the drive home or the walk home. Different route, music on. By the time I'm back home at the door, it's down. The point is doing it deliberately, not by accident. If this one sits wrong, hear me out, because it's not what you think it is. Every rebook conversation, every recommendation, every what are you thinking for next time, that's selling. And most barbers hate the idea of calling it that because selling sounds like pressure, and barbering is supposed to be about relationship. Here's what it actually is. If you truly believe in the value of what you provide, if you genuinely think a client gets something real out of being in your chair, then asking them to come back isn't selling. It's service. The client who doesn't rebook might end up somewhere else with someone who doesn't know their head, doesn't know their hair, and doesn't know them. That's not a good outcome for them. The salesperson hat isn't about pressure. It's about asking for the relationship that you've already earned. And the rebook text, the reminder, the next appointment already set, that's not pushy. That's you making their life easier. Hat number 4 is the customer service hat. No-shows, late arrivals, the client who's unhappy and doesn't say a word about it until they're sitting at home, and then it comes out in a review. The hard conversation you've been putting off for 3 weeks because you keep hoping it'll handle itself. It won't. This is the hat nobody wants to wear. Because every time you reach for it, something's already gone sideways. So the instinct is to look away and hope it passes. And it doesn't pass. It compounds. And the client who's mildly annoyed today becomes the client who quietly doesn't rebook and tells a few people about it on the way out. Customer service isn't the smile while the haircut's going well. It's what you do the moment something goes wrong. And the move is almost always the same. You show up, you address it. You don't need the perfect answer or a polished apology. You just have to not avoid it. The barber who deals with the awkward thing directly keeps the client, and the one who hides from it loses them and usually never finds out why. Think about any job that requires standing on concrete for 8 to 10 hours a day. Arms elevated, repetitive motion, no meaningful breaks, doing it 5 to 6 days a week. We'd call that physically demanding work. We call it a normal Tuesday. Research across barbers and hairstylists consistently shows upper back pain affecting close to 40% of the profession. Lower back, neck, shoulders, wrists, all of them take a consistent, cumulative hit over their career. The barbers who don't manage this don't burn out on the work, they run out of body. Your body is equipment. Every barber thinks about which clippers they need. Most have never thought about what their body needs to last 20 years behind the chair. And the fix isn't complicated. One real sit down between clients. 10 minutes off your feet. That's it. This is one of the least glamorous hats, and it's the one that will quietly decide the length of your career. Hat number 6, the marketer. Your reputation is a marketing function. Your Instagram, your word of mouth, your reviews, the way you present yourself at your station, all of it is marketing, whether you're doing it deliberately or not. The difference is, barbers who do it deliberately grow faster. They're not necessarily better, they just understand that clients don't always find the best barber in a city. They find the most visible one. The marketer hat in 2026 is different than it was 10 years ago. It used to be enough to do great work and let word of mouth run. Now there's an expectation that you show your work. The barbers who document the chair, not as a content creator, just someone who puts their work on a page, have a real advantage in client acquisition over the barbers who don't. I came up in the content era. I've watched this shift happen in real time, and here's the part most barbers miss. There are two audiences. When you post for other barbers, you're selling education. You're selling how well you wear the craftsman hat. When you post for clients, you're selling everything else, the other 8 hats. And if you're not on their feed, you don't exist. This doesn't mean that you have to love social media. It means you have to acknowledge that the marketing is happening one way or another, and you might as well be in charge of what it says. This next one is hat number 7, and it's the accountant. We spoke about it a little last week, but most barbers don't know their break-even number. And when you don't know your break-even number, it's one of the most expensive things that you can do in this job. If you know your exact break-even number right now, drop it in the chat. Not the dollar amount, just a yes or no. Total monthly expenses, booth rent, product supplies, taxes set aside, divide that by your average ticket. That's how many cuts you need to complete before you're actually making anything meaningful for yourself. And if you don't have that number, you're running the business on vibes. And that works right up until a slow month hits, or product costs go up, or the shop raises booth rent, and suddenly it's wrong and you don't know why. The accountant hat is the one barbers avoid most, because the numbers are uncomfortable when you don't know them. But a number you know is manageable. A number you don't know is just a surprise waiting to happen. Hat number 8, the brand. You are not just a barber. You are a brand. The way you dress, the way your station looks, the way you carry yourself with clients, the way you show up online, all of it is part of what a client buys when they book with you specifically. The craftsman produces the haircut. The brand is everything the client associates with getting that haircut from you. And clients pay for brands. They pay more for brands. They refer brands to their friends without being asked. Most barbers put careful thought into their work and almost no thought into the brand around that work. The ones who do both, who decide deliberately what they want clients to feel when they land on their page or walk into their space, those are the barbers who don't usually have a client retention problem. Number 9, the small business owner. This is the one booth renters argue with the most. I'm not a business owner. I rent a chair. I understand that instinct. Barber school didn't hand you a business license, and the shop owner isn't your employee, but here's what that setup actually is. You're generating revenue, managing expenses, acquiring clients, setting prices, and bearing all the risk by yourself. If you take a bad week, nobody's carrying it for you. You are a small business owner, whether you acknowledge it or not. The barbers who acknowledge it make better decisions because they stop treating the business side as someone else's job. Those are 9 hats. All of them are yours. Every single one showed up when you took that first client. And here's the through line. Most of what goes wrong in a barber's career, the burnout, the book that isn't growing, the money that doesn't add up, the physical wear and tear, it's almost never a craftsman problem. It's happening somewhere in one of the other 8 hats, and you cannot fix what you haven't named. Name the hats. Then you can start deciding which ones you're wearing deliberately and which ones you've been letting run you. That's the map. Now here's the 5-minute move that turns it into something you can actually use. Before you walk out of the shop today, take 5 minutes, pull your phone out, open your notes app, whatever you've got. Write down every hat that you wore today. Not the ones that you should have worn, but the ones you actually put on. The craftsman, obviously. But what else? Were you in therapist mode for 2 haircuts and you didn't come up for air? Did the customer service manager hat get slapped on you by a no-show? Did the accountant hat show up when you looked at what you made and something felt off? Write them down. And then for each one, ask yourself one question. Was I wearing this hat deliberately, or did it just end up on my head? That question is the whole exercise, because deliberate and accidental look completely different. Deliberate means you made a choice. Accidental means the hat was running you while you were focused on something else. Do this at the end of every shift this week. By Friday, you're going to have a map. And the map is going to show you one thing very clearly. There is almost always one hat that's demanding more from you than you've been giving it. One hat that's been running on autopilot while you pretended it wasn't yours. You cannot manage what you haven't named. And you cannot name what you haven't stopped to look at. Try this today. Tell me in the comments what you find. I want to know which hat surprised you the most. Speaking of comments, good morning Miriam in the chat. She said she's walking to work, ready to be inspired. One of the things that I care most about with this show is the community. So when someone reaches out, we answer. I got a message on Instagram this week, and I want to talk about it. A guy named Joseph messaged me. It was short, it was honest enough that it stuck with me, and he said, I want to become a barber, but barber school makes me not want to at all. Joseph, first of all, thanks for sending that, and I want to talk to you for a minute, because you're not the only person who feels that. Barber school and barbering are not the same thing. School is a gate you walk through. It is not the job. A lot of schools lean hard on the parts that have nothing to do with why you want to do this in the first place. The hours, the theory tests, the rigid way they teach the craft. If that's the part that's draining you, it doesn't mean you're not cut out for this. It might just mean the school is showing you its worst angle first. And here's the thing. Everything we got into today, the 9 hats, the business side, client stuff, the whole community around it, none of that is in the school curriculum. This show exists because school leaves out the best parts of the job, the parts that actually make this a career worth building. So, don't let barber school decide whether you become a barber. Just get through the gate. The real thing is on the other side of it. Joseph, keep us posted. I mean that. Keep them coming. Mail it beforethechop.com. In the comments, in the DMs, we read all of it. All right. He had 4 classes left. That's it. 4 classes between him and the degree he'd been working toward. And then the school district cut the budget. The teaching jobs disappeared, and what he had planned was gone. Most people reroute. He made a decision. He enrolled in barber school. His name is Nick Baines. You might know him as Nick DeBarber out of Cincinnati, Ohio. He's been in the industry for 15 years, started cutting in his basement in 2011, grew his clientele from there, to University of Cincinnati football and basketball players to running multiple businesses out of Clifton Commercial Suites near UC's campus. And this is what it looks like when someone takes a door slamming shut and walks through the wall next to it. But that's not the part of this story I want you to carry out of here. He built the career, he built the business, and he built a community foundation, and he still carried something unfinished. In 2025, 14 years after he dropped out with 4 classes to go, Nick Baines graduated from the University of Cincinnati, Bachelor of Arts in Professional Studies, at 40 years old, while running a full business, 3 kids at home, and a foundation he had been running for over a decade. He didn't go back because he needed the degree. He went back because he owed it to himself. Nick is on Instagram, Nick DeBarber. His website is nickdebarber.com. Everything he's built lives here. And what I want you to take away from this story, and why I put it in this episode, is that Nick didn't just cut hair. He wore every hat we named today. He figured out the business side while still cutting in his basement. He built the brand before anyone was telling barbers to build a brand. He showed up for his community before it made marketing sense. And he did all of it with something unfinished quietly in the background. The 9 hats were always his. He just picked them up one at a time over 15 years and figured out which ones fit. Nobody picks up all hats at once. They get picked up one at a time, deliberately, over a career. So this week, you're going to pick up 2 of them on purpose. Here's my challenge this week. Simple premise. Takes about 2 minutes a day, but it's really hard to do it honestly. Look at your 9 hats. Pick the 2 you've been avoiding the most. The ones you know you've been letting run on autopilot or just ignoring outright. For most barbers, at least one of them is the accountant or the small business owner. For some, it's the athlete. For the next 5 days, make one small deliberate choice in each of those 2 hats. One choice. That's it. Not a system, not an overhaul, one decision that proves you're wearing the hat on purpose. The accountant, run your break-even number. One time, write it down. The athlete, build one small break into your day. Sit down for 10 minutes. The brand, post one piece of your work this week. Just one. The small choices compound. The point isn't to fix everything this week. The point is to pick up a hat you've been leaving on the chair and put it on your head just once. By Sunday, you'll know if it fits differently than expected. And tell me what you find. Mail it beforethechop.com or drop it in the comments. Which hat surprised you when you actually put it on deliberately? 9 hats today. Every single one of them yours from day one. Here's the one thing to carry out of here. The problems most barbers are carrying, the burnout, the book that isn't building, the money that doesn't make sense, those aren't craftsman problems. They're happening in one of the other 8, and the first move is knowing which hat the problem lies in. If this episode helped, share it with a barber you know who's running all of these jobs without having stopped to name them. Questions, stories, topic requests, mail it beforethechop.com or leave a comment on the video. Live every Monday, 11:30 Mountain, 1:30 Eastern. Come hang, and if you miss the live, the main segment and the Mindset Minute go up on the channel as standalone videos the same day. Subscribe so you don't miss any of it. Next week, the type of shop you're in right now is either accelerating your career or slowing it down. Most barbers don't know which. We're going to map all 3 types so you do. I'm David Ford. This is Before the Chop. Get behind the chair, chop some hair, and go crush it.